1 week from this exact moment that I'm filming this video, I will be seated in a theater watching Avengers Infinity War. And that means that my series Journey to Marvel's Infinity War is almost coming to a close. We've only got 2 movies left. Today we are talking about Thor Ragnarok, and in just a few days we'll be talking about Black Panther once again. But today we are taking on the 3rd movie in the Thor trilogy, the movie that a bazillion critics described as fun when it came out because, well, this movie is quite a bit of fun. If you've been following along with this series, you know that I'm having to double up on movie reviews this week because they moved Avengers Infinity War forward 1 week, and my schedule had it worked out so that I would review 1 Marvel movie each week in 2018 leading up to Infinity War. But because I have 1 less week, that means 1 week I have to double up. And what that means for this video is it's probably going to be a little bit shorter. I can't cover as much stuff and do all the different parts that I normally do because I still have a full-time job and I just simply didn't have enough time to make a full version of one of these videos. Now, before I get started, go ahead and tell me down below in the comment section, what did you think about Thor Ragnarok? Is it the best of the Thor movies? Is it the worst of the Thor movies? Did they finally nail it by going full-on comedy, or did they ruin the character by going full-on comedy? Let me know your thoughts down below. Also, stick around to the end of this video. I'm going to share a bunch of you guys' take on this movie using the Stardust app. With that said, let's get started talking about the good. And I'm going to go full out cliche on this one. The best thing about this movie is that it is a ton of fun. The reason everybody said that is because it's true. Sometimes cliches are cliches because they're true. And with this movie, they just kind of went all out trying to find every way to squeeze as much possible fun out of this movie as they could. So whether you're just talking about the jokey from beginning to end nature of it, the fact that they just hired this amazing cast of fun characters or fun actors to play amazing characters, the fact that they let Chris Hemsworth go full-blown funny Chris Hemsworth, and funny Chris Hemsworth is really funny. All these elements just make for a fun movie, and then they package the entire thing with vibrant colors, with this synthesized score that's kind of a throwback to the 80s that's amazing, and then you got Led Zeppelin thrown into the mix. Really, to me, this movie's kind of like a better version of the 1980 movie Flash Gordon that was this campy fun that had Queen doing the soundtrack, a synthy score. This is a better version of that, and I like that movie. I grew up watching that movie. This is just the better version of that movie. And some people have contrasted this movie with Guardians of the Galaxy. They say it's too much like Guardians of the Galaxy, or the Guardians of the Galaxy-ified Thor. And to some extent, that's true. I can see what they're saying when they say that. I don't necessarily perceive of this movie that way, but I see where they're coming from. And based on that scorecard, this was the better Guardians of the Galaxy movie in the year 2017. Per my opinion, you guys fully are aware that I'm not crazy about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. But the other thing that people have contrasted with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, both of these movies, through humor, cranked the humor sliders up to 11, threw all the jokes at the screen as they possibly could. Some of my criticisms of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is that there was so much humor, it undercut the drama, and a lot of the humor fell flat. Well, undercutting drama, we'll get to that in negatives. But as for jokes falling flat, I felt that they worked in this movie. I really enjoyed the humor. Very few jokes just fell flat to me, which means I just had an absolute blast with this film. From there, let's move on to the cast. I say it in every single Marvel review, but they're all cast amazing. They're getting A-list talent. They're discovering the character actors left and right to kind of squeeze in the movies. They're putting legacy actors in there. Even like Taika Waititi, the director playing Korg, is amazing in this film. So kind of walk through it. So this movie has funny Chris Hemsworth. And we've seen him do that in a number of comedies that weren't so great, but he was really funny in those movies. We've seen the little one-liners here and there in the previous movies that Thor has been in. This movie, you just see just how funny this guy is in so many different ways. Physical comedy, reacting to other characters, the timing of his little one-liners and everything, being able to just kind of deliver funny lines, his chemistry with other characters. It all really works. I just think he's one of the funniest actors out there, and people don't think of him that way because he's so good-looking, because he is Thor, because he is Thor. He's also really funny. He's got got a lot of great talents surrounding him. From there, let's move on to some of the other fun additions to it, like Jeff Goldblum being thrown into the mix. He's just Jeff Goldbluming in space, but I'm totally fine with Jeff Goldblum in space, Jeff Goldbluming, and he fits perfectly into this quirky, weird world that they created. Every time he's on screen, a smile would appear on my face. Then you got Tessa Thompson joining the good guys in this one as a Valkyrie, not really seeking redemption, but restoring herself in certain ways. It just plays the tough guy, plays kind of the anti-hero on so many different levels. Just one of these characters you're like, I sure hope we get a lot more of this Valkyrie character. Then you got Karl Urban in here in kind of a side role as the Scourge, and I kind of loved his character in this movie because he has such a distinct thing that he wants, this distinct path that he's on that's so selfish that makes him interesting. And he wants people to love him, he wants to be respected, he wants power, he wants this story surrounding him, and it just makes him interesting. And it's so different of a character from what we've seen Karl Urban do before. And that's part of what makes it so interesting. Even looking at the way they cast this movie, where you've got just Jeff Goldblum perfectly playing into Jeff Goldblum's stereotype, and then they get Karl Urban playing so far against the stereotype for him. And so just all the ways that they put these pieces together just makes for a great, great film. Then you take Cate Blanchett, throw her in as this villain character that just gets to chew up the scenes, is this angry, snarky, sarcastic villain. Just makes for an interesting addition, and you get to see her as the bad guy that kills people but also can crack jokes, and so you get enough of it in there that you feel that she's actually a threat that can do damage, not that she's just the Joker kind of character. And then she fits into the movie that they were making here. Of course, you've got a nice little cameo or bit part for Doctor Strange. It's probably a little bit more than a cameo because it is a full sequence that ties into the plot of the movie, and just so fun to have his witty back and forth with Thor, and just seeing the mystic arts kind of play into all of this in a way that makes sense, the way it kind of ties into the story that they show up in New York City, and if in fact that these mystics are doing what they're doing, they would have an interest with Loki showing back up. And those little details that make it feel like a lived-in, shared universe where everybody doesn't have to show up in every movie, but it would make sense that there'd be little connections between all of the movies. And last one on the cast I want to talk about is they got some nice little cameos in the mix. Like there's the play at the beginning of it where you have Matt Damon, the third Hemsworth brother, and then Sam Neill playing Thor, Loki, and Odin, which is just amazing, especially the first time you're watching the movie and you're like, what? Matt Damon is in this? And then my wife's like, is that the guy from Jurassic Park? Like, it is. It's the guy from Jurassic Park. And we're like, wait, who's that guy? That guy looks familiar too. Wait, that's the other Hemsworth brother. And like just such a pleasant surprise. From there, let's move on to kind of the aesthetics of the film. I talked about it before, but just the movie just has a cool look to it. Because the colors are so vibrant and the worlds they go are so interesting looking, it just makes everything kind of come alive. And the thing that complements that so well is the music in the film. They went with this synthy score, kind of throwback to the 80s, and I absolutely love the music to it. And if the soundtrack to it had a better version of the main theme that wasn't just kind of like the 1 minute version, but if they could stretch it out to like a full song version of it, I would totally be listening to that song on repeat in my work truck all the time because I love the synth score to this movie. The other thing that's great about it is an amazing use of the Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin. So it showed up in the trailer, and sometimes they just do kind of throw songs in the trailer just because they're cool songs and you want to throw them in the trailer. And so then we're watching the movie and it appears in that opening scene. You're like, oh, that was awesome. They used it. But they found a way to bookend kind of, Thor throwing down, bookend it. He does it at the beginning of the movie, and then they save it till the very end of the movie to bookend it. Once he goes full God of Thunder, he just starts tearing guys down, spinning through the air, shooting lightning everywhere. Such a great use of that song as kind of this theme song of awesome Thor in the movie. Another thing to talk about when it comes to the aesthetics of this movie is it's very stylized. Maybe possibly the most stylized movie of any inside of the MCU. Like when they start doing Valkyrie's backstory and it's all these slow-mo shots kind of happening in the movie, I mean, it just looks very cool, the way it's done. But all of this goes back to the color scheme that they chose to use. All these sorts of aesthetics make for a very stylized, interesting movie inside of the MCU. Last thing I want to talk about is the story itself. A lot of times when people talk about this movie, they focus on the fun, how much they laugh at all the humor, the great actors playing the amazing characters, but they don't talk about the story as much. And for me, I actually really enjoy what they did with the story here, as it kind of has this gladiator in space feel to it, and just kind of, it has the Shakespearean epic aspects of it, of the king dies and the long lost sister returns to take the throne. All sorts of elements like that play into it, and you have this big gigantic hero's journey as Thor loses his hammer and must discover himself and join the team and journey back to save the kingdom while learning a lesson all along the way. There's a lot of great drama in that, great story elements to it. I love Gladiator, so having this kind of gladiator aspect to it. I've also heard some people compare this one to Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome because of the nature of the way the story works, and the comparison works. And once again, movie is way better than Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, but it ties in a bunch of really cool kind of big story elements told with a very fun tone, with a lot of humor to it, and a bunch of just absolute blast performances from a ton of amazing actors. From there, let's move on to the bad. Easily the biggest problem with this film is on multiple occasions, serious drama is just undercut and undermined by the humor, or just by the way that Taika Waititi decided to play out situations. One in particular is just an unforgivable sequence where when Hela first arrives in Asgard, she kills off 2 members of the Warriors 3, and the movie just goes on. It ignores it. It just, like, these 2 characters played by actors that one of them played the Punisher, one of them's about to play Shazam. These aren't nobodies. These are characters we've seen in 2 previous movies with deep ties to Thor, his longest and oldest friends, killed off. Just kind of happens. They're no threat. Just die. And the movie doesn't acknowledge them. It just doesn't do anything with them. And that's, dramatically speaking, kind of unforgivable. You could have just cut that out. You could have made those 2 generic warrior people. You could have made it a longer sequence where they battle a little bit and you like play the emotion of them dying. You could have had a scene later on where Thor is just like wrecked by the fact that he learns that some of his best friends died. There's all these different things that they could have done, they should have done, that anyone that watches the movie that has any respect for the previous 2 movies would go, wait, what did they just do? Why didn't they boop, 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 and come up with a list of 10 better ways to handle that? And it's weird because, like I said, I like the story in general, what they were going for. I think it's structured nicely. I think it has the right beats and moments along the way for great storytelling. And then it just totally screws up the specific moments where you can have some real heart. While at the same time, some of these moments work really well. When Odin tells Thor that, you know, you're more powerful than me, or are you the god of hammers? And like that has some emotional weight to it. And then the death of his friends, whatever. Just moves past it, kind of ignores it. Another one that didn't bother me as much, but I know a lot of people talk about in the middle of the 3rd act is, you know, people are dying, we're trying to save Asgard, and then Hulk has his big epic moment where he goes, now you'll learn who I really am, and jumps out of the ship, and then he kind of falls down flat on the ground. You know, it's this very subversive moment where it's really funny because you weren't expecting that to happen, but it's funny at the expense of building dramatic tension and building stakes and drama and all those types of things. And the movie keeps doing that over and over again. And at a certain point in time, the movie itself chooses to put drama and fun and humor in contrast with each other. And the movie to me feels like if you made the movie 5% less funny or 10% less funny, the movie would be, as a whole, would be 20% better. Because these moments that need to have emotional weight would have far more emotional weight as opposed to getting one more laugh in. Because we don't need one more laugh in this movie. There's no shortage of laughs in all these other moments that you don't have to like cut the legs off the emotional moments, the dramatic moments, the tragic moments to throw another joke in. And that's easily the biggest issue with this film. Next big issue I had with this one is while I love the production design and the vibrant colors, the actual CGI and green screen itself, I I don't think look particularly good at all. There's so many shots in this where it just looks so much to me like Chris Hemsworth is standing on a small set with a huge green screen behind him where they filled it in with a bunch of CGI. And when that's such a huge chunk of this movie is CGI, green screen, stage stuff, it looks like the Star Wars prequels is really what it looks like to me far, far, far too often. The third big problem I have with the movie is that it has a credibility problem in the way they chose to so drastically change the Thor character. In that essentially Thor in this movie comes off like a parody of Thor from the other movies. He's so comedic, his personality's changed so much that it just strains credibility. You watch this and you go, again, it's funny. I get that you needed to change things up because Dark World's one of the least beloved films in the MCU, but it comes at the cost of credibility. And I've had a lot of discussions in the comment section where people have tried to defend Thor's change in personality. They say, well, it's character development. He's spending time with humans, and so he's changed. Or, you know, it's happened over several movies, and they've been hinting that he's a funny guy. He's always been a little bit funny, and they're just kind of stretching out that side to his personality. All of that feels like a stretch to me. First off, it doesn't seem like he spent that much time on Earth with that many humans for that much time for that to really be the situation that his personality would change that much. But it's also, his character now is it all feels like a parody of Thor. Like it's this super heroic, that's what heroes do stuff. And like, Loki, you meant the world to me. I believed you could do it. I mean, it's all so much the cheesiest, corniest version of what we've seen Thor do before. It's fun. It's funny. It just does not feel like a natural extension of what came before. It doesn't feel plausible that he would change this much and have such kind of a dopiness to his personality and a goofiness and just so inherently jokey in everything that he says. In which case, it pulls me out of the movie a little bit, while at the same time I'm like being pulled back and forth by, wow, this is making me laugh quite a bit. And it feels very odd that this is what Thor is like now. And is this what his personality is going to be in Infinity War? Like, that's another one I'm curious, like, is he going to keep behaving like this? Is Robert Downey Jr. going to call him out on it? Like I don't see Tony Stark being fine with him just suddenly being this surfer dude in Infinity War. All in all, that makes this movie a little bit tricky for me to decide on my score on it because I think it's wildly entertaining. I think the pieces are all there for this to be a great movie, but they just undercut themselves a little bit too much by going so far into the funny, so far into the change of the Thor character that it undercuts some of the drama and the credibility of the film. And likewise, the sci-fi or the special effects aren't quite up to par. Still wildly entertaining film. I'm going to go with a B+ on this one, but it's actually probably more entertaining than it is quality, so I'm going to go a 9 out of 10 on the entertainment factor for this one. So that's my take on the movie. I'm not going to do MCU connections on this one, just because I'm very much short on time trying to get this one out on time for you guys tomorrow. So we're going to go straight to you guys' take on the movie using the Stardust app.
One of my favorites in the MCU, apart from Black Panther's my favorite, but this is a close second place, probably, I'm not sure yet.
Taika Waititi brings such weird craziness to this film and absolutely works. It's just a great update for the character of Thor.
Thor Ragnarok was an amazing MCU movie, one of my favorites.
Still think it's a great movie. Saw it in the theater. Fun movie. Funny movie.
Definitely one of the most fun movies the MCU has ever made.
You know, people always say that Marvel has a villain problem. Thor Ragnarok works so well because it doesn't have that issue. The Hulk is awesome in it. Thor's awesome in it. It's great. It's fun.
It was super awesome.
It's actually the funniest, in my opinion, of all the MCU movies. I think in terms of characters, it is the best for a solo film, I think.
I love the fight scenes. And it's one of my favorite new Marvel Disney movies.
The movie might sacrifice levity for humour, but it works completely on its own terms, with Taika Waititi being able to make his own style of movie within the MCU.
A lot of moments that were super cool to me. I was like, yeah, you go, Thor.
Chris Hemsworth is great in Thor. And Loki is great, Hulk is great as Mark Ruffalo.
It's really funny. There's a lot of great action scenes. It's amazing. Amazing visuals. Hela, she's a great villain, played by Kate Blanchett, who's hella beautiful in this movie, by the way.
It was the funniest. Thor was portrayed very well. He was stripped down to the bone.
I think they took it in a much better direction.
This one was fan-freaking-tastic.
Hemsworth has hit his stride as Thor and is amazing, but my favorite part of the movie is definitely Kate Blanchett's Hela.
Overall, it's not much more than that. There's really not much real emotion to the movie, which kind of brought it down for me. And Thor and Loki almost kind of seem like parodies of themselves. Overall, kind of feels more like a SNL sketch than an actual MCU Thor movie.
I love this movie because it's so much fun, and
every second there was something funny and insane, or just plain what the heck.
All the dark scenes that were turned into comedy scenes made me frustrated.
Kate Blanchett was awesome as Hela. Everyone just does great work in this movie.
Still though, regardless, one of the best Marvel movies to me. Easily the best Thor movie.
So there you have it. There was my take on the movie, you guys' take on the movie. As I said before, just because I'm kind of crammed for time, I had to shorten this one up a little bit, and I couldn't cover quite as much as I normally like to with these videos. But go ahead and tell me down below in the comment section your favorite MCU connections, your thoughts on the movie, all of that fun stuff. And if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos. But the key thing is I don't want to just talk about movies, I want to talk about movies with you. So please join me down in the comments section. Come back in a few days to check out my Black Panther re-review, and a week from now to check out my Infinity War review. And as always, thank you for watching.